This is Matthew McConaughey,
Natalie Portman,
James Patterson,
Michael Ian Black,
and you are listening to
Five Questions
with Dan
Schawbel.
Darryl, welcome to Five Questions.
Thank you for having me here. This is DMC and the place to be, and this is the place to be right now.
What influence did both Grandmaster Flash and comic books have on you growing up?
Wow. Grandmaster Flash and comic books had a huge inspiration to me because they taught me that Darryl was perfect just the way that he is, and who he is could be the person that is up front, as opposed to having my alter ego or secret identity be the thing that represents me. It made me, Darryl is the one that makes everything possible. And that was very confident.
Yeah, I mean, that is some of the best advice you could ever give, right? It's like the best way to stand out is to be yourself, because then no one can replicate you. But if you try and live up to other people's expectations and maybe copy what someone else is doing, you can be influenced. Everyone's influenced in their own way, like you have, but you want to, your best differentiator, your best advantage in life is to be yourself.
Yeah, when I heard, when I heard Grandmaster Flash, a live performances with him and the Furious Five, and then when I started hearing their records, hip hop wasn't a business to me. It was, oh shoot, you can tell stories about who you are over music. And that's all I needed. I didn't have to change. I didn't have to be somebody else. I mean, I was inspired by, Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and Al Green and James Brown and Aretha Franklin. Also, I was inspired by Harry Chapin and Jim Croce, the storytellers. So when all of that came together, I was like, I can do what they do. I can't sing like them, but I can tell stories about me. It allowed Darryl to have a place in this universe.
Yeah. And by being yourself, it's easier to connect with other people because everyone, has similar problems and some of the things that they're going through, and they can relate to your story more if it's coming from, who you are and what you've been through.
Don't be ashamed of who you are. Like for me coming out, I'm DMC and the place to be. I go to St. John's University. All the college kids was like, oh, he's talking about college. Whereas before, nobody was talking about school being cool and wearing their glasses and family. And, I'm so gangsta, I made Christmas time in Hollis, Queens. So everything that people tend to think that is not valuable about themselves, I spoke about those things that people didn't think was cool, so people could see the coolness in themselves.
Love that. And how did the success you had with Run-DMC actually lead to depression and alcoholism? And what did you do to recover?
That's a really, really great question. When I was just being Darryl and wanting to create and wanting to just produce and wanting to just do something because it felt good to do it, the sky was the limit. But then it got to the point where, because of what I was doing, it was all me. And it wasn't to get money. It wasn't to be famous. It just felt good to do it. So of course you're going to have a good result. But then people on the outside of that are seeing the material results of charts, charting, being on the radio, being able to tour, getting a lot of money, where it went from me just doing it to getting on the radio, being able to tour, making a lot of money, and being successful. It went from this. It went from that to people going, Darryl, who didn't know what I was feeling doing it. It went to Darryl, you need to be on the radio. I'm on the radio, but he's telling me I need to. Now I'm getting nervous. You need to be on the radio. You need to make money. You need to be on the chart. You need to tour. You need to be No, I did not realize that the only thing that I need to do is be happy, and everything else will come. So what happened was the imagination, the sincere enjoyment for doing it went from imagination to destination. And when that happens, you forget about you having everything necessary to be successful. So I started reaching for things outside of me. Oh, let me get some alcohol to give me the confidence that I already had. Let me do what that person who appears to be more successful to me in the thing that I created. Nobody could be never. Eminem said, nobody will never do what y'all did. Like, that's enough for me. But now I'm like, oh, maybe I need to talk about what that artist is talking about. Maybe I need to work with those people who have an appearance of success. Yeah, they're successful doing that, but it's not mine. So I started reaching for things outside of me because I was listening to people outside of me to attempt. Now, and the reason why I say attempt to get what I already had, because I started doing that and everything started failing. But when I was saying, I just want to tell this story, I want to rhyme about lollipops, I would go, no, I can't rhyme about lollipops because people might not like me. When that started happening, everything went wrong. The only thing an individual needs to do, no matter what career they're in, what position there is, no matter what it is that you do, you need to be happy about the way you are.
Yeah, another way to say that is like work on your internal game first.
Yes, exactly. So my whole career, my success was, I loved comic books because comic books was the only time I saw geeky, nerdy people who were smart, but were badass and powerful. Peter Parker, he's Spider-Man, but he's awkward and he's trying to figure it out. Batman, he's Batman, but Bruce Wayne has all of these other parts. Tony Stark's, Reed Richards, and the list goes on, Professor X. They all got these personal problems that I can relate to, but they are who they are. So my whole thing in the beginning was pretending to be the most powerful entity in the hip hop universe on the microphone. Son of Byford, brother of Al. Ben is my mother and runs my pal. It's McDaniels, not McDonald's, baby. I don't care how good those burgers are. They can never be better than me. These rhymes are Darryl's. Those burgers are Ronald's. He got that, but I got my mic. I ran down my family tree, my brother, my father, my brother, and me. That was my power, not anything else outside of that. Not the critics, not the people hating on me, not the bullies, not the people teasing me. I got people that love me and support me regardless, so I must be doing something right.
Man, it's such an important message because so many people, especially in your industry, they get swayed by other people. And especially with social media, is everyone's like, oh, I don't like that picture, or what about this? Right. And like everyone's trying to kind of nitpick and kind of turn you into what they hope or want. Whereas all that matters at the end of the day, like you were saying, are you happy? And it kind of connects to what you said earlier about identity. It's like you have your identity, but once other people start to kind of mold that identity, you lose track of who you actually are. And so you kind of become another person. And your goal in the beginning was to be yourself.
Exactly. Realizing that, I'm perfect just the way I am. That's my power.
And you co-founded a nonprofit and recently wrote a book to support children. How have you used these platforms to help children gain self-awareness and build self-confidence?
I've realized over my career, I've been practicing, or I've been put in a position to be prepared to initiate inspiration, motivation, while I'm entertaining people. The world knows Darryl McDaniels, the guy they know as DMC, the king of rock. From when I got out of high school, I made it to St. John's University, I made it to college. Then I was able to walk this way with Aerosmith in my Adidas, along with Run and Grandmaster J, to tell the world how tricky it is to make it through this life. I realized from my first rap, I'm DMC, in the place to be. I go to St. John's University. And since kindergarten, I acquired the knowledge. After 12th grade, I went straight to college. I've been doing this since kindergarten. I realized that Darryl McDaniels DMC, I do not be ashamed to tell my story, to express what I've been through, so that not that you see the greatness in me, you see something similar or familiar that resonates with yourself. I use myself to show people the greatness and the great people they already are. So that has been a skill that I was able to utilize with rock and roll and hip hop. Now I'm realizing on records, you know me from when I got out of high school. Now I can tell stories in a book form to the little kids about the same dynamic DMC guy that the grandmothers and grandfathers know about. What was it like for that individual when he was in third grade? Like I did with my book, Darryl's Dream. So the kids see a young DMC in third grade. They're not really seeing a young DMC in third grade. They're seeing themselves in their environment. So for me, I put the responsibility of the position and power that I'm in first. What was the line in Spider-Man when Aunt May says to Peter, because he didn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, Peter, with power comes a lot of responsibility. And that was like a light bulb to Peter. Of course, there's going to be adversity. Of course, there's going to be struggle. Of course, there's going to be people that don't like you and stuff like that. But what's important is you stay true to the feeling and the goodness that you're representing. That'll get you through anything. So I was able to take the arts. I was able to utilize music, storytelling, rock and roll, hip hop, or just having a conversation with a person as a form of self-empowerment and empowerment of others. You know, I relate what I do to teachers, to journalists, to storytellers, to filmmakers, to playwrights, or even down to sculptors and painters. Like I tell the kids, there is so much empowerment in finger painting, and they understand what we're doing.
Yeah, I really like this because I think what you've done, and not only are you a role model, but you're a storyteller who's figured out how to use various different mediums in order to get messages across that are relevant and timely and powerful, especially for young people who we talked about offline, like are struggling more than ever before. Like, when I was a little kid, I didn't have to wear a mask. I didn't have to be, homeschooled. Like I didn't have to, suffer in these ways and have these challenges. Yeah. Right. So I think that message is resonating more because there's more pain, and I don't, who knows what the future holds, but I think that, people need role models right now, and people need kind of a path forward and self-confidence to be able to head down a new path, because clearly, there's a big roadblock in a lot of people's current paths.
And a lot of things we associate with the mental health issues of adults start in preschool. Because I blew somebody's mind. I said, we go anxiety, depression, confusion, being afraid and being nervous. Those kids feel that same thing. I just spoke to a third grade class in the Bronx the other day, and I was telling the kid, in my book, Darryl's Dream, Darryl gets nervous before he goes on stage and says his poem. I tell the kids the truth. I keep it real with them. That didn't end in third grade. I said, I'm 57 years old. I've been in the music business for 40 years. I still get nervous when I go out on stage. And they look at me like, still now? But if I'm confident enough to tell them that it's okay to be nervous, we all have anxiety, we all get afraid, and you tell them that now, by the time that they become adolescents and teenagers, and then they grow into adulthood, they will already have experience of how to navigate those things. And I noticed that that's what I've always done with my music. When you hear the King of Rock song, it isn't just about how dynamic I am on the microphone. The lyrics is like a book. You open it up and there's this guy sitting on a horse with a sword proclaiming, I'm the king of rock. There is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To burn my kingdom, you must use fire, but I won't stop rocking till I retire. I've had people now who saw and realized all the Easter eggs that has been in my lyrics out of the comic book superhero thing. They said, D, that's powerful. You can burn your whole physical kingdom, but that doesn't stop you from being who you are. I decide when I'm over. I won't stop rocking until I retire. And it's like you just said, I want to create things that will generationally resonate with people, no matter if they're 3 years old or 300 years old. And one of the things that I do, I'm just proud to tell my story to encourage everybody who is not a so-called celebrity. Your story can change a life. your story can save a life. Those two things that I'm a normal everyday person. I'm no different from the UPS man or the doctor or the teacher or the plumber. It's just that my life in my career has been lived out in front of everybody to see. But when I'm at home sleeping, my therapist told me this: you sleep just like everybody else. Yeah, you eat just like everybody else. Because I started identifying myself in a stereotypical way. I'm a foster kid who found out that he was adopted, and I am all these things that my situation is. And she was like, no, that's part of who you are. But she was like, you eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom just like everybody else. And I had to be, yeah. So she asked me, what makes you different? And I said, nothing. The only thing that's different is I lived out my business, my career up in front of people on radio and TV. But I'm no different from any man, woman, little boy, or little girl on the face of the earth.
Definitely. We both love comics. I used to collect comics as a kid. My best comic was the comic where Bane broke Batman's back, which eventually was in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yes,
I love that trilogy.
Movie. That was a powerful thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then more recently, I've been getting into Marvel comic NFTs and just NFTs. In general.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like
That's
really
awesome.
into it. I use VV, so I get like the Marvel comic one and all those grail issues that are unattainable, basically.
Yeah,
but I'm also,
Marvel,
I know you're a Marvel guy. I'm actually more of a DC. I didn't dress up as Spider-Man for 5 Halloweens like I did Batman. So I'm a little bit more of a DC person at heart, even though Marvel is clearly crushing it.
Yeah. They definitely crushed it. My son's a DC, but I love DC. I love Flash. I love Wonder Woman. Love the Green Lantern and stuff. The only thing that my attraction to Marvel was this: Stan Lee was brilliant for putting the heroes in New York. So Peter Parker being from Queens like me was like a motivating factor. I can make it through this universe. You know what I'm saying? And I learned about the Lower East Side in Harlem, and I learned about the world that I lived in, but I couldn't leave the block. Comic books showed me my New York City, you know what I'm saying, at that young age.
Well, I never realized that. Honestly, I never even thought that would be part of the reason why he's been so impactful, to be honest.
Yeah, because he made New York a real life character and put the superheroes within it. So for me, it was like, I remember, I talk about this in my book, we was driving over the Queensboro Bridge. And I was in the back seat. I think I was like, 6 or 7 years old. And I looked up and I saw the Roosevelt Island tram. And I had only seen it in Spider-Man. And I started hyperventilating. And my mother, she was a nurse. She was like, breathe. My father was driving. I told you the boy is out of his mind. What's going on? Speak. And I couldn't speak. But then I finally got it out. I was able to say, it does exist. And he was like, what are you talking? It does exist. It's the tram I saw in Spider-Man when Gwen Stacy died. And my father just started laughing. He was like, oh my God. But it was those things in those books that allowed me, it gave me the confidence to say, man, if they could get through that, I can get through, it's okay to be scared to go to school tomorrow because the bullies, they're waiting. But if Spider-Man could get through his adversity, this bully thing can't last forever. And then eventually I became cool with the bullies because when the bullies found out that I had drawing skills, because I drew everything I saw in the comic books, now the bullies actually became my bodyguard. Nobody messed with Darryl because the bully needed me to draw his cover for the project when it was time to. I did my project a week earlier. He waited the night before to do his, but now, so now you want to be my friend. But since I love to draw, I drew it for him, and that kind of broke the walls where he didn't bully me anymore, to the point where he was like, don't you tell nobody this, but I love comics too. So if you're not ashamed of who you are, eventually you'll get through all the adversity. I guess those are the morals to the stories that we always saw in those comic books.
Yeah. And speaking of stories, I'm always curious because you deal in so many different mediums, right? You have Darryl Makes Comics, you have your new children's book, you have your music, you're getting involved now. You said in the metaverse, maybe NFTs. You're dipping yourself into so many different areas. How do you kind of evolve those stories and tell them maybe slightly different or in a unique way based on the medium that you're trying to get the message out?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's probably kind of goes with your last question too, but it was like, I always try to find a thing that nobody else is doing in the presentation and communication of the production. What I mean by that, when I came into hip hop, I just it wasn't a genius thing for what me, Run and Jay did. We didn't sit down and say, we're going to do this to become pioneers, legends, and untouchable. I just came in because I loved 70s rock radio. Led Zeppelin, Harry Chapin, Joni Mitchell, the Stones, Janis Joplin. You know, soul music was my mother and father's because they were still young. So Al Green and Marvin Gaye and Aretha Franklin, that's my mother's music. I related to folk rock and I related to what they call classic rock nowadays. But classic doesn't mean old. Classic means better than everything after it for eternity. So it's a difference. But when I got into hip hop, I just realized they're using funk, they're using jazz, they're using disco, they're using R&B, and they're using soul. Nobody's making rock records. Nobody's making hip hop rap songs with rock. So we did rock box, which got us on MTV, changed the game. 1980, that was 84. 1985, where do we go next? We did a video with Larry Bud Melman from the David Letterman show at the front door of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum telling Run-DMC, you guys can't come in here. This is a rock and roll museum. So then we go into King of Rock. Now, what's powerful about that in 1985, when I got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2009, they said, D, come here. You guys were prophetic. I was like, what are you talking about? Y'all did a video in 1985 about being denied entry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum. Yeah, what's the big deal? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum didn't start till 86. So it was prophetic. So then we did that. So we established, we're coming in whether you like us or not. Then in 86, we took it a step further. We redid a rock song with the band that originally did it. So when that happened, the powerful thing about that is when Steven Tyler took the mic stand and knocked down the wall in the video, I've been to South Sudan, I've been to Moscow, I've been to Singapore, I've been to South America. Everybody says, well, Steven Tyler knocked down that wall in the Walk This Way video. It didn't just happen in a video, it happened in the world. So how do when I come into something, I try to do something that's a little different than what has already been done so that it's not about me. It's about innovation and it's about opportunity for everybody not to just be in the game. I don't want to just be in the game. I want to bring something to it so that somebody can build on what I did. So I'm looking at all of these NFTs. I'm looking at all of the real estate and what people are creating in this new metaverse, and I'm learning from it. I'm taking notes so that when I come, what's going to make me different, but not from the point that it's all about me. What's going to make me different so that after me, somebody else can build upon. I want things to grow and evolve as opposed to just have a bunch of us with NFTs out. So that's my key. I look and say, okay, basically to answer that question, when I come into any medium, I get rock and roll with it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Innovate. And it's also good for you in terms of personal growth and challenges. And you seem like that type of person that's like, okay, what's next? But I got to do it my own unique way, kind of going back into your whole idea of I want to be myself. I want to be happy. And so you don't want to just, throw it at NFTs. Like it's like nothing. You don't want to just do a metaverse for the sake of it because you see other people maybe in the industry doing it. It's, how do I, if this is the future, how do I make this mine in a way in which it fosters growth and innovation?
Exactly, because it's funny. Everybody in hip hop after Run-DMC, from Eminem who inducted us, we was just trying to be Run-DMC. But the beautiful thing, they are who they are. Everybody didn't look like Run-DMC. Everybody didn't sound like Run-DMC, but everybody got to rap and do hip hop like us, but in their own way, which caused growth. As opposed to this generation of hip hop, everybody's rapping. Rapping is spreading out, but it's not evolving. Everybody's rapping about the same things. Like right now, we need that one little kid, and I always tell the kids in middle school this. The high school kids think they're grown right now, but I always tell the kids in middle school this. We need that one little kid that's going to come and make a parents can't understand like Will Smith did, or that's going to make a song like De La Soul did, or that's going to make a song like the Beasties is. Everybody is talking about my car, my money, and which is cool. I'm not hating on that, but there's no growth. Nobody is stepping outside of the lane. I always tell kids, don't be part of the game. Don't just be part of the game. I hate that word about this business anyway. Don't be just part of it. Bring something to it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to do, when I come.
Absolutely. And back in 2013, which feels like a century ago, I asked Rev Run for his best piece of career advice. And he said, quote, "You have to be able to do things that will work." What's your best piece of career advice?
The best piece of career advice is do something that is going to allow somebody the opportunity to do what it is, the thing that they want to do. And what I mean by that is you could have a career in hip hop without being the rapper. I am nothing without soundman, lightman, management, my lawyer, tour guides. Everybody just looks at the one thing. I tell my son, he loves hockey. You got to be really, 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 really good to be out there on the ice. But you could be a journalist, you could be a manager, you could be a physical therapist, you could be a sport. Do something that you love to do that will allow somebody else to do the thing that they love to do. I got people that don't want to rap. I got people that I want to be a photographer. I want to be the videographer. I want to be a designer. That's my key to success. From Run-DMC, what I mean by that, I did a rap song about my sneakers, which allowed me to become the first non-athletic entity to get a major sports endorsement. I don't even play basketball, and I got what Michael Jordan got. That's because those boys and girls in the Bronx before the first rap record just had the desire to create this beautiful culture called hip hop to give all of us an opportunity. Create something that will give somebody else the same and better opportunities than you have. That's career advice.
Yeah, I have actually never heard of that one, but the way I'm thinking about this is it's almost like if you're not qualified or don't want to do the actual profession, you can still be in the industry.
Yes. Now, the beautiful thing about that is, as a manager, you don't just manage me. You manage rappers and singers and guitar, you know what I'm saying? They don't see the totality of the universe, the universal possibilities. So that's a career involves everything that allows that career to exist, to explain why I said that.
That's beautiful. So thank you so much for the advice, for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Keep up the great works.